All right, we're gonna move on to new business, tax levy. Tim, Kevin, who's gonna do it?
Tim's gonna, this is something that just, we are not required by statute to conduct a public hearing to approve our levy as long as it's below the 5% tax cap. However, it's been past practice in this district to still do a public hearing to be transparent on the levy to the community. In order to do that, we had to have a proposed levy for you tonight, like a draft, so that it could be on display for 30 days in the business office for anybody to review before we do a formal hearing on it at the second meeting in December.
Okay. Any discussions on this?
This would have to be approved at the December board meeting because it has to be filed by the last Tuesday in December with Cook County. There was a question regarding what was meant by the reduction in the levy based on new property. And if you look at the spreadsheet for the levy, it shows in the first column, it says 2011 levy. That's the amount that you approved last year for the tax levy in each of those funds. You could see that in the second column where it says 2011 extension, that's the amount that the county actually levied in each of those funds, and you can see there's a reduction there. The reduction is because the CPI number for last year was 1.5%, and we levied at 3% because we wanted to pick up any taxes that were available from new property. You usually go high because you don't know what the new property is going to be. We won't find that out until July. So you go high, and what the county does then is when the number comes in is they reduce your levy down to the maximum allowable amount, which is what they did there. They reduced it from 11,117,000 or 18,117,000 down to 17,922,000. So that's, and what they do if they don't have any instructions to the contrary, they just reduce it proportionally in each fund. They do the same amount in each fund. What I've done in terms of setting the levies for next year is gone through and looked at each of the funds and said, what is it that we need in those funds to cover the anticipated expenditures in those funds? So I would recommend that the board approve a resolution in December saying that if there's going to be a reduction, and there will be a reduction, that it all be in the education fund, that they don't reduce the levies in the other funds, that they take the entire amount out of education, so that we continue to provide the revenue into those other funds that we need, to cover the expenses. The tax cap that we have to use this year, the percentage is 3%. That's the CPI from 2011. The proposal here is for a 4.95% increase. That the additional amount is to cover that new property. And as I said, the county will reduce it to the maximum allowable amount based on that new property. So the third column is what the levy would be at 3%. The fourth column is what it would be at the 4.9%. Okay. The other issue that I bring up is that the county allows you to add a percentage to the levies based on losses that you may incur through foreclosures, delinquencies, those types of things. In our case, they automatically add 5% to whatever the levy needs to be in the bond fund to cover those losses. But in the other funds, they don't add anything. Most school districts have the county add 3% in all funds with the exception of the bond fund. So it is something that we can do. In addition to the levy, we can add an additional 3% to cover that loss, but the board would have to approve a resolution in December to do that. And it would be a one-time type of thing that would be a little bit higher bump because we'd be adding that 3%. And then once it's built in there, obviously that doesn't happen again. But I want to bring this to the board's attention that you can do this if you want to do this.
All right, Tim, when you come back in December with a motion, make sure that you put about the education fund that you don't want.
Okay.
All right?
Yes.
And we'll have
Explain that bump thing again, please. The last thing you just explained, the one time.
Okay, what the proposal here is that we're going to levy at 4.95%. Let's say it comes in at 4%. So then the county's going to reduce it down to 4%. That's the maximum allowable amount. Then the county's going to turn around and they're going to add 3% in addition to that to each of the funds other than bond and other than debt service. they're gonna add 3% to each of those funds to cover potential losses from delinquency and foreclosure.
And you only get to do that once?
Well,
ever?
once you put it in there once, and now once it's in there, I mean, it's in there all the time. I mean, it stays in there. So the additional amount is gonna be only in the first year that you do it. After that, it's just gonna be built in.
But I'm missing, why are we doing it this time and didn't do it last year?
Well, I mean, it hasn't been done historically in this district, and I don't know why it hasn't been.
But if we do it once now, we can't do it again in 10 years or something?
Once the board passes a resolution saying add 3% to every fund,
Okay.
the county will do that every year.
Oh, okay.
Unless you pass a resolution that says, okay, don't add that to the funds
Okay,
anymore.
I got you. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thanks, Tim. We'll just make sure to make that motion.